Welcome to Scotty B's Fitness Journey Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Blomberg. My goal with this podcast is to inform and inspire others to start and continue their fitness journeys by sharing my story. Episode 6, Part 1 of 2 on nutrition and intermittent fasting. This one is called Two Fallacies. This episode, I talk about what I've learned about nutrition, and I'm going to start this first part by talking about things that I learned that were incorrect over the years. Again, I've been on my journey since July of 2021. I work out 6 days a week, and I've improved my diet and incorporated intermittent fasting into my routine. I've lost over 90 pounds with my goal to get down to 250. That'll be 55 more pounds to lose. And I also want to be able to do pull ups when I get there. I'm not an expert, just a guy sharing my story to hopefully inspire others. As I mentioned, I am not the expert, but what I've been doing in my journey is try to read a lot of books, watch a lot of podcasts. I sought well researched sources. I've also had nutrition coaches, multiple, and I've made some mistakes and I frankly took some wrong advice. Um, I've settled in on my best source is a Dr. Jason Fung. He's written a number of books. The first one I read was called The Obesity Code. Second one is Life in the Fasting Lane. And I just purchased another one, The Complete Guide to Fasting, and I'll be diving into that soon. What he says resonates for me because it reflects what's worked for me. And because not everything has worked, and I've had points where I've plateaued or even gained weight, following the advice of my nutrition coaches actually. Um, I also recommend a book called The Cruise Control Diet. That's by Jorge Cruz. Cruz like Tom Cruise, not Penelope Cruz. And that one actually has a foreword written by Dr. Fung. And the reason I like that book is while Fung talks about sort of the medicine around weight loss and intermittent fasting, Jorge gets more into what should you eat or what shouldn't you eat when you're fasting. All right, so let me start by just going back to knowing how to manage nutrition can be challenging because most of us have been bombarded with conflicting information our entire lives, information that either has an alternate agenda, namely to make money off of you, whether it's to sell you highly processed food or to, you know, tip into your pocketbook to help you lose weight. Um, anyway, we've always been bombarded with this information in our entire lives, and I'm going to get into a couple fallacies that I've learned. Um, we've all been taught the wrong approaches to a healthy diet, and I'm just talking about a healthy diet, period, let alone lose weight. Um, basically, we've been taught, a higher carb diet from way back when. Now, let me give you a little bit of background of myself and my family. Anyone from my hometown of Albert City, Iowa, that's my age or older, will know who my family is and where we come from. My family is Dee and Pooley Blomberg are my parents, or were my parents. They've been gone for a while now. And they were two pillars of the community of Albert City for many, many years because they owned the restaurant Pooley's. Or when I was a kid in the 70s, Pooley's Fast Food, very popular place across the street from the high school. And, you know, it, many people from my hometown talk about how dear that restaurant was to them. Many people worked there as their first jobs and learned much from my parents, especially my mother, who kind of managed the personnel day to day. But that said, Pooley's was Pooley's fast food. Pretty much all the food at Pooley's was fried. I'm going to show the menu here. You can see maybe the healthiest thing is roasted chicken. Um, the number one most popular item was homemade pork tenderloin sandwiches, which of course were deep fried and highly breaded, but they were really good and people enjoyed them. Um, Yeah, I mean, this was the 70s, and we didn't know as much about nutrition, and fast food was highly popular. It's kind of ironic given my own struggles, my sister's struggles with throughout our adult lives with perhaps weight and weight loss, that we grew up in this restaurant and probably contributed to many people, not only ourselves, but many people having not the best diets. Now, when I go back to Northwest Iowa, it's funny when I see items on menus that I knew originated at Pooley's, like the pork tenderloin sandwiches, like the roasted chicken. Um, so that's one irony. The other irony of Pooley's fast food, for those of you who knew my mother, she always struggled with weight and with the journey, and I think that she would be proud of the journey that I've taken now, and she would be very interested in learning, what I've learned. Um, but but here's the irony: is while we were running the restaurant for 32 years, 1948 to about 1980. Pooley's was a thriving business in Albert City, Iowa. My mom was actually the head of the local Weight Watchers group and held the meetings in the back room of Pooley's. I remember there was a very nice scale in the back room of Pooley's, and it was because that's where the Weight Watchers would go to learn about how to lose weight. So anyway, there's a little bit about Pooley's. I'm going to move on now to the two fallacies that I wanted to highlight in this podcast. So number one, the food pyramid. We all remember this when we were kids growing up. I remember growing up in the 70s and 80s learning about the food pyramid. The classic food pyramid, which was recommended by the government, by nutritionists, called for our calories to be 55 to 75% carbohydrates, while protein was only relegated to about 10 to 15%. And for carbohydrates, there was no distinction between highly processed food and natural foods such as fruits. We all know that is wrong and has led to obesity in many of us. A good chunk of the population were just simply taught the wrong emphasis in terms of this. It definitely does not lead to weight loss, and in many of us has led to weight gain. The the amazing thing about this fallacy is it just won't go away. In fact, when I Googled to get a graphic to show the classic food pyramid, I found on Amazon teachers can buy this as a poster to put in their classrooms today, 2024, even though it has been proven to be not the right way we should be eating. Fallacy number two. So, this is probably the biggest one that I've heard about from quote experts about what does it take to lose weight. I'll give you one example. When I do bod pods, so bod pod it's basically this egg shaped device that you sit in, um, you take off, you get down to, like just wearing shorts. And what the bod pod does is it varies pressure and is able to measure essentially your volume. And from that volume, and you step on a scale afterwards, it can calculate your percent body fat. That's a bod pod. Well, when I get the bod pod at a local gym, they provide with the bod pod. The person who's running it is a nutritionist or a nutrition expert, and they run the bod pod and then they counsel us, for 15 to 30 minutes. Well, they are counseling exactly wrong. What's fallacy number two is that in order to lose weight, you simply need to have a calorie deficit. In other words, all you need to do to lose weight is make sure that you're burning more calories than you're taking in, period. That is wrong. I know it's wrong by my own experience. At one point, I estimated my daily calorie burn was about 3,500 to 4,000 calories. At that same point, I was tracking my calories. I tracked literally everything I put in my mouth, calorie by calorie. And I was watching my macros to make sure my carbs, protein, and fat were well balanced. Short term, I had weight loss, but that was quickly followed by a plateau or a small gain. And I was under the um, a coach that basically accused me of cheating. And I wasn't. I knew I wasn't. I was tracking everything going into my body. But what I now know was happening is it was metabolic adaptation. Basically, my body adapted to it and just said, "Oh no, we're going to starve if we continue to burn this fat. So we need to crank down the basic metabolic rate to match the calorie in, input." And so fallacy number two is a calorie deficit does not lead to long-term weight loss. So there's my two fallacies. I'm going to do the second part of this episode is going to be more what to do. So this was kind of the what not to do or the fallacies that we've been taught. And so, look forward to my next podcast when I talk about what I have learned works in terms of weight loss. Thank you for watching or listening. Good luck on your own journeys. And if there's any way I can help, please reach out. I look forward to hearing from you.